Welcome to the West Ham Voice. Thank you for joining me. My name is Stel. If you're new to the channel, please do hit the subscribe and like and bell notification buttons to let you know when I'm next on. This show is all about the Europa Conference League. We get back into Europe after a long wait since November. And of course, we play AEK Larnaca away in Cyprus on Thursday evening. This show is going to tell you all about AEK Larnaca, but also about all the other teams that are in the last 16 of this competition. And we've got some interesting teams as well. With AEK, there's Anderlecht, who we've already played, Villarreal, Basel, Slovan Bratislava, Fiorentina, Sivasspor of Turkey, Ghent, Istanbul, Başakşehir of Turkey, Lazio, who played AZ Alkmaar on Tuesday night, Polish team Lech Poznan against Swedish team Duja Gadan, Sheriff Tiraspol, and of course French club Nice. There's a lot to go through. I'm going to go through it as carefully as I can because there's quite a lot of information, but it'll give you an insight as to who's left, who might be getting through to the last eight, and who we might face in the next round should we beat AEK Larnaca. So let's start off with the teams that played on Tuesday night. Of course, Lazio hosted AZ Alkmaar of the Dutch League. And surprise or no surprise, if anyone saw the game, I don't think it would have come to too much of a surprise that Alkmaar were very good. They've taken a 2-1 lead to take back with them in the home leg next week. It was quite a decent game and a decent team put out by both teams. And I think Lazio were probably stunned by the performance of their opponents. The Italian club have been made joint favourites to win this competition, along with Villarreal. With West Ham United being third. But having seen AZ Alkmaar in the way they played, I wouldn't put it past them if they were a team to be feared, possibly going into the last eight. Pedro put the Italians ahead in the game. And it was 1-0 after 18 minutes. But then Pavlidis of AZ Alkmaar equalised on the 45th minute. And a great goal for their second goal. Nicely worked goal between the team for Milos Kerkez to put the Dutch club ahead 2-1. The recent form of Lazio is quite possibly a focus on much more than the Serie A than it is about Europa Conference League. And should anybody draw them, if they do get through this round, should anybody draw them, it might bode in our favour because Lazio are looking at trying to get into the Champions League through Serie A. They're just 2 points off second place at the moment, Lazio, and they may just be focused on trying to get through that rather than trying to get through the Europa Conference League. They got through to the last 16 when they played Club Cluj of Romania. In the first leg, they did go a man down, but they did beat them 1-0. But in the return leg, they drew 0-0. Again, however, it was probably more down to the team that they put forward, having only just scraped past Cluj. But then I look at what they did against AZ Alkmaar, and I just wonder, are they as good as people think that they are? Look, they got past glories, a history of winning things. But again, like most teams in this competition, their glory days are way past them. 2 championships of the last one was in the 99-2000 season. 7 times Italian Cup winners. Last time was 18-19. UEFA Super Cup winners in 99-2000. And Cup winners back in 98-99. Their manager is someone that we've heard of quite a few times, Maurizio Sarri, who's got a wealth of experience behind him, having managed Chelsea, Napoli, Juventus. And there's even talk, despite his age of 64 years of age, he may be a target for to become West Ham manager in the future. Sarri, however, has got a contract with Lazio until 2025, so it might take something to move him away from Italy. They have some great form players as well. There's Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, who is valued at around £45 million. And of course, he's linked to us to be a replacement for Declan Rice. Sarri's favoured formation is an attack-minded 4-3-3. They're most certainly forward-thinking, an exciting team to watch, having scored 41 goals in the Serie A this season. They're a very good side with an excellent experienced coach. However, like I said, they may have their minds focused on Serie A. And qualifying for the Champions League over winning the Europa Conference League. And I just wonder, like I said, whether that's affecting their performances or whether that's affecting the teams that they put out in this competition. Their the goal scorer, Ciro Immobile, who at 33 is still banging in the goals, and he's scored 11 so far this season. However, he missed the first leg, and he's likely to miss the second leg against Alkmaar due to injury. But their goals are shared around. And there's one familiar person to West Ham United who's is back in decent form, and that's Felipe Anderson. Well, what about Alkmaar? Well, apart from going 2-1 up in their first leg in the last 16 against Lazio, they went into this game on the back of 3 wins, 2 draws and 1 defeat in their last 6 games. They're third in the Dutch league, 2 points off second place Ajax and 5 points off league leaders. So they too maybe sort of got their minds on Champions League over the Europa Conference, but they certainly did the business against Lazio in the first leg of the last 16 tonight. They won their group stage with relative ease, having won 5 games and only slipped up once against another Cypriot team, Apollon Limassol. Just like Lazio, they may have their eye on bigger things. Plus, they do have a couple of teams on their tails, again, just like Lazio in their league. And again, this all boils down to what they're going to do. They've done the business, like I say, in the first leg, and what are they going to do in the second leg, or are they going to continue to focus on their league form as well? Again, just like most clubs in this competition, they've got a great past of trophies. Dutch champions in 80-81 and again in 08-09, 4 times Dutch Cup winners, the last time being 2012-13 season, Dutch Super Cup winners, and 3 times winners of the Dutch Second League. Their manager is coach Pascal Jansen. He's been in charge since 2020 and adopts an interchangeable 4-3-3 system, which can adapt from going from a defensive-minded 4-3-3 to an attack-minded 4-3-3. Their top goal scorer for the club is Vangelis Pavlidis, who scored one of the goals against Lazio. He's now on 18 goals for the whole season. Attacking midfielder Daniel De Witt is on 13, but is currently out injured. And their other striker, Jens Odgaard, who played against Lazio as well, is on 11. Now, I don't know. It's a hard one to call. Even though AZ Alkmaar go into the second leg of the last 16 with a 1-goal lead, it's still difficult to call a winner from these. And I guess given that Alkmaar are going to be at home in the second leg and with a 2-1 lead, I kind of make them favourites. And I think quite possibly they're going to go through to the next round. Next up is Anderlecht versus Villarreal. They host one of the favourites in the tournament, the Spanish club Villarreal. The Belgian club's recent form going into this game is having won 2, lost 2, and drawn 2 of their last 6 games in all competitions. They're currently 10th in the Belgian league, which doesn't make it a good season for them. However, they got to the last 16 of having beaten Team Ludogorets, but it went to penalties, where goalie Bart Verbruggen was the penalty hero, having saved a number of penalties. They too have past glories. They've 34 times Belgian champions, 13 times Belgian Super Cup winners, 9-time Belgian Cup winners, 1-time UEFA Cup winners in 82-83, 2 times Cup winners, which of course West Ham played in, and they beat us in the 75-76 season. A team of past glories rather than a team of the here and now. The last time they won anything was in the 17-18 season. They sit 9th in the Belgian league at the moment, with little danger of relegation, but certainly no danger of trying to win the title. Their manager is Brian Reamer, who was assistant manager at Brentford before taking on this role in December 2022. They adapt to their formation dependent on the teams that they play. In the first game against us, of course, we've played them in this competition in the group stages. The first formation they played against us was 3-4-2-1, and then they reverted to a 3-5-2 in the return tie. Their attacking play is not great. Their leading goal scorer is Leo Rafaelov, with only 6 goals this season. Like I said, we've played them already this season. We beat them 1-0 and 2-1. Yeah, they're not in great form. What about their opponents? Villarreal, in their last 6 games, they've won 3 and 3 defeats, all in the Spanish league. They currently lie 6th in La Liga and still have a chance to qualify for Europa through their league standing. But it's likely that winning this competition might secure European football for them rather than the league itself. How did they get to the last 16? Well, Villarreal won their Conference League, their group stage, with 4 wins, 1 draw, and a defeat against Polish side Lech Poznan in the final group game. Their only success throughout the seasons has been the Europa League back in 2020-21 season, which saw them qualify for the Champions League the following season, and they beat Man United in that game. Their manager, Kiki Setien, has been in charge since October 2022. He's got vast La Liga experience, having even managed Barcelona for a short period of time in 2020. He plays an attack-minded 4-3-3 formation, which suits their strikers, especially veteran striker Jean-Louis Morales, who joined them from Levante and is now their top goal scorer on 12 goals. But there are also other players in the squad with 10 goals each. Gerard Marino, Samuel Chukwueze, and Alex Baena. So there's more than one goal threat in their team, which is why I guess they're considered to be joint favourites in this competition. What do I expect the outcome to be in the game between them? Well, I think Anderlecht have shown when we played them that they're not really a tough team to beat. And I think Villarreal will be far too strong for them, and they'll go through to the next round. Next up is Basel versus Slovan Bratislava. Now, Barcen's recent form has been they've won 3, drawn 2, and lost 1 of their last 6 games, which includes a mix of Swiss League games and the 2 knockout stages in this competition. Basel are 5th in the Swiss League, with a win and a chance of qualifying for Europe in that league. They got through by beating Turkish club Trabzonspor in the knockout stage, where they lost the first leg 1-0, but came back with force by beating them 2-0 in the second leg. Yet another team. This seems to be a competition of teams with past glories. 20 times Swiss champions, 13 times Swiss Cup winners, and have been involved in European competitions for quite a long period of their history. But like Anderlecht, they have a history of competing in Europe, but their best seasons were back in the 73-74 season when they were quarter-finalists in the European Cup and semi-finalists in the Europa League in 2012 and 2013. Over the past years, the club have had a tendency to replace their managers at quite an alarming rate. Since September 2020, they've had no fewer than 5 different managers, with recent change having happened in February of this year, when Alexander Frey was replaced by German coach Heiko Vogel, who has managed them before and has also managed German clubs such as Bayern Munich and more recently Borussia Mönchengladbach, their youth systems and academy teams, not the senior teams. Vogel sets up the team in a rather unique formation of a 3-1-4-2. Very attack-minded, but with a tendency to be left exposed on a counter-attack. Their current top goal scorer is Andy Sakiri on 12 goals, and he's currently on loan from Brighton, with an attacking midfielder, Zeki Amdouni, currently on 10 goals as well. What about their opponent, Slovan Bratislava? Well, they've won 3 games, drawn 1, and lost 2 of their last 6 games. Best placed, Basel played Slovan Bratislava in the group stages of this tournament earlier this season. In those games, Slovan beat Basel 3-0 at Basel's ground, and in the return leg, it ended 3-3. Slovan are one of the few teams who have played in the Champions League, Europa League, and now the Europa Conference League in the same season. They progressed through to the last 16 by the mere fact that the results between the two teams, Basel and Slovan Bratislava, were better for Slovan than they were for Basel, because their league standings were identical, including goal difference. Another team with past glories, 12 times champions of the Slovakian League, 10 times Slovakian Cup winners. There were also Cup winners back in 68, 69. And prior to Slovakia being Slovakia, they were 8 times champions of the former Czechoslovakia. Their manager, Vladimir Weiss, who has 4 Slovakian league titles and 3 Slovakian Cups to his name, has been with the club for the past 2 years and sets the team up in a defensive-minded 4-3-3 formation. Their top goal scorer is Alexander Kavric on 16 goals this season. Now, it's interesting. I don't know what to make of this one, because Slovan have only just recently returned back to the league after a winter break. So one would imagine they should be fresher going into this fixture. And I'm sure they played a number of friendlies coming up to this. But Basel just may have the momentum at the moment. And even though they didn't do so well against Slovan in the group stages, I've got a feeling that they might just nick it over the two legs. Next up is Fiorentina against Sivasspor. Now, for me, Fiorentina is a little bit like a West Ham United of the Italian league. They are a team that can attract really decent players. They're a team that have been relegated and promoted, just like West Ham. And one thing that differentiates them, I guess, to Fiorentina is the money that's invested in East London, but also that Fiorentina have been a little bit more successful in winning things. They sold Luca Chiesa in the summer to Juventus for a fee of £40 million. And they used that money wisely, bringing in right back Dodo for 12 million, attacking midfielder Antonin Barak for 6 million, defensive midfielder Rolando Mandragora for 5.8 million, and an astute free signing of Luka Jovic from Real Madrid for 0. And it is Jovic alongside striker Arthur Cabral, formerly of Basel, who have been grabbing the goals for the club more in Europe than in Serie A, interestingly. Their recent form, Fiorentina, go into this game pretty decent. 4 wins and 1 draw and 1 defeat in their last 6 games. They have pushed themselves up the league. They were kind of struggling a little bit, and they now lie 12th, a comfortable 12th in the league. They got to the last 16. They won 4 of their group stages, drew 1 against Latvian team RFS, and lost 3 against Turkish club Istanbul Başakşehir, who actually won the group stage. They did go on to beat Scottish club Heart of Midlothian twice, as well as RFS and Başakşehir in their return ties. So one could say they weren't really tested in the group stages, yet they were not good enough to actually win the group itself. Fiorentina faced Portugal club Braga in the knockout stages to get through to the last 16. They beat them quite convincingly away 4-0, and then again at home 3-2. Past glories again for Fiorentina, 2 times Italian champions, albeit going back to 55, 56 and 68, 69 season. But even we lord winning the FA Cup and the Cup Winners' Cup back in the 60s, don't we? So why not? They have won the Cup Winners' Cup back in 60-61 season. They won the Italian Cup 6 times, the last time being in 2000, 2001, as well as Super Cup winners in 96-97. Their manager, Vincenzo Italiano, yes, that is his real name. Vincenzo Italiano has been in charge since 2021, with past experience from many teams, mainly from the lower leagues in Italy. He sets up his team in a very attack-minded 4-3-3 formation, which is clearly designed to get the best out of the likes of Cabral and Jovic. Their top goal scorer, as I've mentioned, is Luka Jovic on 11 goals this season. And he's currently, and also ex-Basel player, is currently on 10 goals. So they've got a good attacking prowess. Sivasspor, the team that they will play, Turkish club, go into the game having won 3 and lost 3 in their last 6 games. They currently lie 14th in the Turkish league and are in danger of being relegated, sitting just 1 point off the drop zone. Sound familiar? Sivasspor only just won their group, a point ahead of Romanian club Cluj, who were knocked out by Lazio. And to be honest, they didn't dominate their group, which had Cluj, Balkani and Slavia Prague in it. In fact, it's a surprise Slavia Prague didn't actually do better in the group stage, and Sivasspor only managed to draw with them on both occasions that they played them. They've won two trophies in their history, having been Turkish Cup winners recently in 21-22 season, and also they won the second tier championship in 16-17. Their manager is Riza Kalimbai, who's been in charge since 2019, and he primarily adopts a 4-1-4-1 system in the club. Their top goal scorer is Mustafa Yatabare, who has scored 11 goals. But he's out with a medial collateral ligament injury at the moment, and his return is unknown, which makes them reliant on winger Max Gradel to get the goals for him, and he's currently on 9. I honestly think Fiorentina is going to be a bit too much for the Turkish club. And I think it will be Fiorentina that go through to the last eight. Next up is Ghent versus another Turkish club, Istanbul Başakşehir. Belgian club Ghent will host Başakşehir in the last 16. Ghent are marginally better than another club in their league, Anderlecht, who we've already spoken about, having recently beaten them 1-0 in the Belgian league. Which is one of 3 wins of their last 6 games, which the other 3 were 2 draws and 2 defeats. They're currently 5th in the Belgian league with an opportunity to get into the Europa League if they go above Club Brugge, but this competition is another route for them back in Europe next season. How they got through to the last 16. They faced no real major competition in the group stages, having played Swedish club Djurgården, Mold, and Shamrock Rovers. They lost twice to Djurgården, were runners-up who were runners-up in the Swedish league last season, and won 2 games and drew 2 games against the other teams in the group. In the knockout stages, they had to play Azerbaijan, Qarabağ, and had to go all the way to penalties to eventually beat them. Belgian champions once back in 2014-15 season, Belgian Cup winners 4 times, last being 21-22 season, and were once Belgian Super Cup winners in 15-16. They've been regularly involved in European football over the years, having competed in the Champions League as well as the Europa League over the past few years. Are they a force in this competition? Much of a muchness, really, and I'm not really expecting them to go much further. Their coach, Hein van Hazelbroek, has been there since 2000, and who also managed Anderlecht and Genk in the past. Their preferred playing styles is between a 3-4-1-2 and a 3-4-2-1 formation, and they're very reliant on goals from leading goal scorer Hugo Kuipers, who's currently on 19 goals. They bought Kuipers for just under £3 million from Club Mechelen. Cut the supply out to Kuipers, and it looks like they don't have too much to offer. As for their opponents, Istanbul Başakşehir, they were group winners in the group stages. Their recent form is having won 3 and lost 3 in all competitions. They currently sit 5th in the domestic league, just 3 points off Besiktas with a game in hand. So they're very much in the running for European football through their league form. They won their group over Fiorentina on goal difference, as I've already mentioned. Both teams dominated with 4 wins and 1 draw and 1 defeat each. And it's no surprise that their only 1 defeat was when they played each other when they were in their first tie at home. The Turkish club won 3-0, and then the Italian club won 2-1. Past glories, Turkish champions in 1920 season, and won the Turkish second division back in 13-14. Their manager is Emre Belozoglu. And the only other managerial experience that he had before this was Fenerbahce caretaker manager before moving to this club. But he's done well at the time he's been there, playing a 4-1-4-1 formation with their top current goal scorer is attacking midfielder Danijel Aleksic on 10 goals. But there are other players who have goal contributions in the squad, mainly winger Serdar Gürler, midfielder Deniz Turuk, both on 9. And then from set pieces, centre-back Yusuf and Daishimi on 7 goals. I expect Istanbul Başakşehir to get through this stage, to be quite honest with you. I think they're going to have probably enough in their locker to get past Ghent. Next up is Did you know that Robert Lewandowski once played for a team called Lech Poznan? Well, I didn't either. Shows how much I know about football. He did so between the year 2008 and 2010, making a total of 82 appearances with 41 goals and 20 assists. And this was the form that led Borussia Dortmund to buy him for a mere £3.5 million in 2010. Now, at the age of 34, he's still worth probably around 10 times that what Dortmund paid for him. So, what about Lech Poznan? Well, the Polish team go into this tie having won 3 of their last 6 games with 2 defeats and a draw. This season, they played in the qualifying stages of the Champions League, only to be knocked out by Qarabag. That took them into the group stages of the Europa League, where their main competition came from Villarreal, who they did beat 3-0 at home. Finishing second in the Europa Conference group, they faced Bodo Glimt in the knockout stages and only just managed to beat them with a solitary 62-minute goal coming from their top goal scorer, Michał Ishak. Over the years, the Polish club have been regularly involved in European football. They've been involved in UEFA Cup as far back as 1978-79. Have regularly played in the old Europa Cup, European Cup, Cup Winners' Cup, and more recently Champions League and Europa League competitions. However, they've never really reached any serious heights in any of these competitions, but they do have vast experience. Their manager is John van der Brom, who was appointed last summer, who has a wealth of experience managing European sides such as Genk, Utrecht, AZ Alkmaar, and Anderlecht. Their rigid 4-2-3-1 formation doesn't always provide them with many goal-scoring opportunities, and we know that ourselves, given that Moyes plays the same system. As mentioned earlier, Ghent cut out the supply to their goals. As mentioned earlier about Ghent, the same applies to Lech Poznan. Cut out their supply to their main goal scorer, Ishak, on 19 goals this season, and their attacking force seems to be somewhat maybe subdued. And what about their opponents, Djurgården of Sweden? Going into this tie, having won 5 of their last 6 games with only 1 defeat, but their last competitive game was back in November in this competition. Will it be a hindrance? They've been on winter break for all that time. So will it be a hindrance going into this game? I don't know. I'm not sure. They will resume playing in the league at the beginning of April. I'm sure they've been playing some friendlies in the build up to this. They dominated the group stage of this competition, winning 5 and drawing 1. They scored 12 goals and only conceded 6. 12-time Swedish champions, the last being in 2019. 5-time Swedish Cup winners, and the last being 17-18 season. Their coach is Kim Bergstrand, who has been in charge since 2019 and adopts a 4-3-3 attacking formation. Their top goal scorer is Joel Azoro with 8 goals this season. But once again, I can't call again because you'd expect perhaps that Djurgården will be fresh and going into this competition, but Lech Poznan, having played on a regular basis, might just be too good for them. And it's a hard one to call, but I think again it's going to be the Polish team that will go through. Next up is Sheriff Tiraspol against OGC Nice of France. Another interesting tie, I think, this one. Sheriff, who was founded in 1997, have become the biggest team in Moldova. They currently sit top of their league and are on track to qualify for the Champions League again next season. Since 2019, and apart from the odd season here and there, they've been playing in regular European football ever since they were formed. Champions League, Europa League, and now the Europa Conference League. They played a total of 90 Champions League games, 59 Europa League games in their short history, and made headlines in 2021 when they beat Real Madrid at the Bernabeu 2-1. They go into this game not in great form, just 2 wins and 4 defeats, but all these games have been in European competitions because they too have had a winter break. They're clearly ahead of other teams in their league with a 6-point gap, which may give them the encouragement. They're clearly ahead of their league form, domestic league, with a 6-point gap, and it may just give them the encouragement to field a pretty strong team in the remainder of this competition. They didn't do that great in the Europa League stages earlier this season, having only won 2 games and losing 4. They were knocked down to the group stages of the Europa Conference League, where they played Partizan Belgrade. They lost 1-0 in the first game in order to get through to the last 16, but they rallied by beating them 3-1 in the away tie. They've been Moldova champions 19 times, current reigning champions, of course, Moldovan Cup winners 11 times, and Moldovan Super Cup winners 7 times. Their manager is Roberto Bordin, Italian manager, who's only been manager of the team since January of this year. He was manager once before and was also recently the Moldovan national manager as well. He adopts a 4-3-3 attacking system, which should favour their attacking players. But their top goal scorer is Rashid Akambi, who's only on 10 goals this season, and all their other players are not even in double figures. The team that they're playing against, Nice, they were group winners in this competition with 4 wins and 2 draws, and suggest they're a team in decent form at the moment. They're 7th in the French league, with potentially this competition giving them the main chance of getting into European football again next season. They weren't that massive. I said earlier their last 6 games. They're going in decent form. Is 4 wins and 2 draws, but they weren't that massively impressive in the group stages of this tournament. With 2 wins, 3 draws, and a defeat, which saw them just scrape past to win the group on goal difference alone. They've been French champions 5 times in the past, French Cup winners 3 times, but all their glories go back to the 50s. They currently have a caretaker manager at the club, and that's 36-year-old Didier Digard, who was only appointed in January. He replaced Lucien Favre, who was in charge for just 6 months. Yet another team that seemed to chop and change their managers, with 4 different managers since Patrick Vieira left at the end of the 2020s. At the end of 2020. Digard lines his team up in an attacking 4-3-3 formation with on-loan player Terem Moffi. Yeah, the same Terem Moffi that we were interested in the January transfer window. Also, their top goal scorer is another loan player from Arsenal, Nicolas Pepe, and striker Gatien Laborde, both on 8 goals. It's another close call, this one. It's another game that it's going to be difficult to call. But I think with their history, I think Sheriff Tiraspol will probably just be a little bit too better than Nice. So I'm favouring Nice to go, Tiraspol to go through. And finally, of course, we come to the Cypriot side that we're playing, AEK Larnaca, on Thursday. When we thought we would only have 400 where we thought we would only have a 400 ticket capacity, we were surprised to be given up to 1,600 tickets for this tie, given Larnaca's stadium is only 8,000 capacity. As it stands, this is Wednesday morning. As it stands, there's still a few hundred tickets left for the game, and it's going to be an all-digital affair where fans will have to show their passports to match the name on the tickets in order to gain entry. There's only one problem with that, though. Everyone's been receiving the wrong tickets on digital tickets. So God knows when my one comes through, what name I'm going to have on mine. Great, eh? So we're going to take our passports. We're going to show our tickets. We're going to show our passports. And there's probably going to be a few problems getting into the stadium. So AEK Larnaca's form. They the Cypriot team go into this tie having won 2 games, having drawn 2 games, and having lost 6 games, with a recent return in the Cypriot league after a winter break. They're currently 2nd in their league, 2 points off league leaders Apoel Nicosia. The Cypriot team had to beat Ukraine team Dnipro 1 in the knockout stages, and it was the 4th time that they actually played them this season. Twice in the Europa League qualifiers, where they won 3-0 at home and 2-1 away, which helped them then qualify for the Europa League stages. However, after failing to get through the Europa League stages, the group stages, they fell down to the playoffs, the knockout stages of the Europa Conference League, and they were paired with Dnipro 1 again. They snatched a goal in the latter stages of the game at home and went on to win 0-0 in the second leg, which saw them through to the last 16. Larnaca were only founded in 1994 and have been Cypriot Cup winners twice and Cypriot Super Cup winners once in the 18-19 season. They've been competing in European competitions on and off since '96, primarily playing in the Europa League, and they're not necessarily going to be a walkover, to be quite honest with you. Their manager, Spaniard Jose Luis Ultra, has been responsible for having gotten them into Europe this season. He adopts a traditional 4-4-2 formation, and it's going to be interesting to see how David Moyes is going to cope with that traditional formation. Ultra, however, has also been known to adapt his formation according to the team he faces. They've adopted a 4-2-3-1 and a 4-3-3 formation accordingly. Their top goal scorer this season is Omri Altman on 11 goals, followed up by Ivan Trikovsky on 10. And what do we say about West Ham United in their form? Well, the only good thing that we can say is we've got a 100% record in this competition so far. Let's hope we don't forget that when we go into action on Thursday. We've had an extremely poor season in the league, as we all know, and we go into this game having only won one of our last 6 games, drawing 2 with 3 defeats. Look, we know where we are. We're in the wrong end of the league, yet our form, as I said, in Europe has been pretty good. We absolutely smashed the group stages with 6 wins, scoring 13 goals and conceding just 4. Many people say that it's only because we haven't played anyone of worth, but you can only play who you have in front of you, and we have beaten teams with relative ease. I look back at our performances in this competition, and it's like watching a different West Ham United. Confident, swaggerish, good passing, good movement, good at creating chances, good at putting them away, as opposed to what we're doing now in the Premier League. Our past glories, well, we all know. We've 3 times FA Cup winners, the last being 1980, 1-time Cup winners, Charity Shield winners in 64-65 for those 2, and twice Division 2 winners as well. And of course, playoff winners too. What do we say about David Moyes and his playing style? Well, we know he plays a 4-2-3-1 formation. It's very defensive minded. We go into games where the shackles are on, and our strikers don't get the support that they need. And what's he going to do in Europe? Because we do that against anybody, whether it be Larnaca or if we get through anybody else. And I don't think that's going to bode very well. And I'm really, really hoping he does, give us an opportunity to play the game that we know that we can play in order to get through this stage of the competition. Our top goal scorer this season is Jared Bowen on 8 goals, with Skamaka, Benrahma and Antonio all on 7. And we also have Danny Ings available for this game too. We do have a number of some team news. We do have a number of players back from injury, as we know. Kurt Zuma, Tilo Kehrer, Angelo Bonner, and Maxwell Cornet were all carrying knocks, or were all injured for quite a while, but they've all been training. Only 2 players, or 3 players, were missing from recent training, or weren't seen, which were Jared Bowen and Vladimir Sufal, and of course Lucas Fabianski. But in fairness, we should have enough of a squad or enough depth in the squad to rest those players in prep for our essential Premier League game against Aston Villa on Sunday. Larnaca boss Jose Luis Ultra will be forced into 2 changes with Angel Garcia and Pere Pons both serving bans for yellow cards. So Nicholas Anglezu and Anglezu meaning English in Greek. Nicholas Anglezu is in line to deputise at left back, whilst Rafael Mamas may get the nod in central midfield. Ultra must decide whether to stick with his 4-4-2 formation, which earned him victory over Enesis Neon Paralimnu the last time that they played, or he may just go, as I've mentioned earlier, for a defensive-minded 4-2-3-1 formation. The ref for this game, forget him. The ref for this game is Espen Eskas, 34-year-old Espen Eskas from Norway, with Jan Erik Engan and Isaac Elias Bashevkin running the line, while Christopher Hagenes is the 4th official. UEFA have confirmed that VAR will definitely be in use in the knockout stages, with Dutchman Rob Dieperink on duty, with Jerome Manschot as his assistant. What's the outcome going to be? I've got to say it's going to be West Ham, haven't I? I think despite our poor form, we should be able to beat AEK, but let's not take them lightly. They're not going to be any mugs. They're not going to be a team that we're just going to walk all over. So my last eight, I believe, are going to go through. I think Lazio are going to be disappointed, given that AEK Alkmaar have got to AZ Alkmaar have got a one goal advantage going into the second leg. I think Villarreal, Basel, and Fiorentina are going to go through. Istanbul Baketskir, Polish team Lech Poznan, Sheriff Tiraspol, and West Ham United are going to go through. Now, who of those teams are we going to fear? Well, Fiorentina. I think. Actually, let's look at them all, and I think all those teams, whoever we draw against, will be very, very tough opponents. If I'm going to be, if I'm going to favour anyone, I think I'd rather get maybe Basel, maybe Lech Poznan, and maybe the Turkish club Istanbul Başakşehir. I'd kind of like to avoid them. I kind of like to play them and avoid Sheriff, Fiorentina, AZ Alkmaar, and Villarreal. But let's see what happens. Our first leg, like I said, will be played this Thursday evening. Will be English time, 7:45. I'll be there, hopefully with the right ticket, and I'll bring you some news when I'm out there. Maybe do a video on the way there, a video at the ground, etc. when I can. Thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, do hit the subscribe and like button and the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. And come on, West Ham. It's all nice and sunny out in Cyprus at the moment. So give us something to cheer about. Give us something to bring back home to. And also give us a performance in order to go into the game against Aston Villa at the weekend, feeling confident. I hope it goes well. I'm sure it will. We'll see you over in Cyprus for those of you who are going or who are already there. And come on, you Irons. We'll see you all very soon.